Okay, so let's unpack this. I think we've all been there, You're staring at your monthly bank statement, and it hits you that you're paying for 5, maybe several different streaming services.
Oh, yeah.
That feeling, that sort of creeping dread, that's what the industry is calling subscription fatigue. And it is creating a huge opening for free ad-supported platforms.
It's a seismic shift, really.
Mm,
And the numbers are pretty brutal for the big SVOD guys, subscription video on demand. So,
yeah,
your Netflix, your Disney Plus.
rocky.
So our mission in this deep dive is to analyze the strategy of the alternative. We're focusing completely on Tubi, which is very aggressively positioning itself as the anti-SVOD solution. Free, packed with content, and just incredibly easy to use.
And we're using their massive content drop plan for January 2026 as our case study here. We really want to understand why this AVOD model is accelerating so fast and how it's changing what you expect from, your main source of entertainment.
The initial snapshot alone tells you how serious this is. Tubi is boasting over 97 million monthly active users, MAUs. And that library isn't just like throwaway stuff. We're talking about a curated collection of over 50,000 titles. That translates to more than 275,000 movies and TV episodes.
That's a staggering amount of content. And it brings us right to the main thing driving this whole shift, the economics. For some, it's a choice, but for a lot of viewers, it's becoming a necessity.
The macroeconomic pressure is it's undeniable. We're seeing a complete change in how people pay for their entertainment at home. The sources show that less than half of U.S. households will even have traditional pay TV this year.
Which just shows a massive consumer appetite for cutting costs.
A huge appetite. And when you look at streaming specifically, that impulse is even more severe. Nearly 1 in 3 U.S. consumers are planning to actively cut back on their subscription spending.
And we have that one really striking data point.
We do. 69% of all Netflix cancellations cited price increases as the sole reason. People aren't tired of the content, not really. They're just tired of the rising cost of the content.
And that is Tubi's entire value proposition right there. It's immediate relief. And 50% of their streamers specifically say the low fee, which is zero, of course, is a key benefit.
But just being free isn't enough anymore.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Every platform has some kind of free tier.
Exactly. The real genius is in how they manage the trade-off, which is, of course, the advertising.
This was the real aha moment for me in the sources, because you automatically think free means you're just going to be bombarded with ads.
Right.
But here, the ad load is actually a strategic advantage, not just something they have to do.
Okay, so think about the baseline. Old school, linear TV, your standard cable broadcast. It averages somewhere between 13 and 17 minutes of ads every single hour.
That sounds exhausting just saying it. That's almost a quarter of your time.
Tubi radically undercuts that. They keep it light, 6 minutes or fewer per hour. They're basically optimizing the interruption.
Yeah.
And the audience accepts it. The data shows only 17% of their users are dissatisfied with that frequency.
So they see it as a totally fair trade-off for all that content.
An incredibly fair trade-off.
But this brings up a serious question for the business, right? I mean, it gets to sustainability. If Tubi is cutting the ad load by more than half compared to TV, how do they make the numbers work? How are their advertising rates high enough to pay for all this content?
That's where the engagement data is key, and it's why that low ad load is so strategic. By having fewer, less annoying ads, they keep the audience more engaged.
And advertisers will pay a premium for that attention.
Exactly. They're selling quality impressions, not just a huge quantity of them. They can afford the low ad load because the ads they do run are more valuable and they don't frustrate people into leaving. It all comes back to the user experience.
That makes perfect sense. They're building goodwill. And that focus on user experience goes beyond just the ads. It's about just getting started.
Absolutely. One of the simplest but maybe most effective parts of their strategy is the lack of a barrier to entry. You don't have to sign up for an account.
You can just click and watch.
Literally just click the app and start watching.
I have to say, I really appreciate that. We all know that frustration of opening a new app and suddenly you're in a 5-step sign-up process just to see what's on there. The sources say 45% of streamers value that option.
And that points to a deeper preference for the free streaming audience. The reports show that 54% of AVOD and FAST users prioritize ease of use. That's compared to only 34% for SVO users.
So if you're paying, you'll put up with more hassle. If it's free, you want it to be instant.
That's the idea. They cater to the casual viewer who just wants to jump in, but they also cater to the dedicated streamer.
Right.
Because while you can watch without an account, the data shows 3 out of 4 streamers who do sign up still expect their login and viewing progress to be saved automatically. Tubi gives you that flexibility.
Okay, so that simple experience and the huge free library, it's clearly pulling in massive numbers, which sets up the next big question. Who are these users, and why are they so appealing to advertisers?
This audience is gold for advertisers because it's young, it's diverse, the exact people who are getting harder to reach through linear TV. We're seeing huge demographic strength here. 36% of their streamers are between 18 and 34 years old.
That's the coveted demographic, right?
It is. And on top of that, they've seen incredible growth in reach. A 50% year-over-year growth in both African-American and LGBT audiences. Tubi is tapping into groups that feel maybe underserved by the expensive legacy platforms.
That diversity is crucial, but the social side of it is fascinating too. It's not just, one person watching on their phone.
That's key. 80% of Tubi streamers co-view content. They're literally gathering around the TV, turning it back into a shared experience.
Why are they doing that?
The reasons are mainly social. 53% co-view to spend time with family, and 41% do it so they can discuss the show they're watching with other people.
So when an ad runs, it's hitting multiple engaged viewers who are actively talking about what's on screen.
Precisely. And this leads us to the metric that makes marketers drool: incremental reach. You said it before, Tubi reaches people others don't. That uniqueness is their most powerful weapon.
We should slow down on this because incremental reach can sound like jargon, but here it's actually revolutionary. What does it really mean?
It means that Tubi is bringing viewers to an advertiser that they literally cannot get anywhere else. It's about finding audiences who are completely missing from other streaming platforms or from TV campaigns. The sources show a full 25% of Tubi streamers cannot be found on competing free services.
A quarter of their audience is unique to them.
A full quarter. So for an advertiser, that 25% is pure gold.
That has to be their ultimate selling point.
It is. We see real-world examples of it. In 2022, campaigns on Tubi showed 75% or greater incremental reach over linear TV ads. For one national fast food chain, they delivered a staggering 98% incremental reach. They're filling the holes that traditional media left behind.
That is strategically massive. But let's go back to that advertising paradox for a second. We're all conditioned to hate ads, but the Tubi audience seems different.
They are significantly more receptive. Tubi streamers are 10% more likely than the national average to say 2 things. 1, that they like to look at advertising, and 2, that advertising helps me choose what I buy.
That level of engagement with the ads themselves is kind of the holy grail for brands.
It is.
But surely that positive relationship only holds up now while the ad load is light. If their traffic explodes, won't they be pressured to just cram more ads in? How long can they maintain this?
That's the tightrope walk for any successful AVOD. Their strategy suggests they know this risk. By investing so heavily in content that keeps you glued to the screen, which we're about to get to, they can justify keeping that ad load low.
Because the engagement rates stay high.
Exactly. If they break that trust by doubling the ads, that entire advantage, especially that 10% higher receptivity, it just vanishes. Their current strategy suggests they know that longevity depends on discipline.
Okay, that makes sense. The content is what powers the whole model. So let's talk about that engine, because January 2026 is shaping up to be a huge month for them. It proves that free doesn't mean bargain bin anymore.
Not at all. The strategy is very targeted. They reinforce the genres that drive high engagement for those diverse audiences. We're talking action, drama, comedy, and especially horror and sci-fi. The licensed movies hitting January 1st are deeply strategic.
And we're seeing a huge influx of cinematic sci-fi.
Absolutely. They're locking in titles with massive name recognition. Take Steven Spielberg's 2005 film War of the Worlds.
With Tom Cruise, a huge movie.
A huge movie. Grossed over $600 million globally, and it just lands on the platform January 1st. And it's not alone. They're bringing in classics like The Fifth Element and the comedy adventure Galaxy Quest.
Plus more serious sci-fi like Arrival and Minority Report.
And they're locking up all 3 of the original Men in Black films. It is a comprehensive sweep of a really high-value genre.
They're also pulling in some serious prestige drama. Fans of Taylor Sheridan, the guy behind Yellowstone, can catch Sicario, Day of a Soldado on January 1st.
And that's a timely one. It deals with some really high-stakes cross-border issues. When Tubi licenses content like that, that's, politically charged, The strategy isn't to take a stance. It's to provide content that's culturally relevant and drives conversation.
And then you have the absolute cinematic classics. We are talking masterpieces hitting a free platform, Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction.
The iconic Dog Day Afternoon with Al Pacino. Scorsese's Raging Bull.
Yeah.
This signals they're going after a serious cinephile demographic, people who might be cutting costs elsewhere.
And we can't ignore the horror slate. That genre is so crucial for engagement with younger audiences.
Yeah, and they're adding modern, critically acclaimed horror like Hereditary, the huge recent hit Talk to Me, and the prequels X and Pearl.
Alongside staples like The Cabin in the Woods and the 2013 Evil Dead.
And this content migration isn't just about movies. We are seeing paid services lose popular TV series to the free side now.
Confirming that these AVOD platforms are becoming the new primary home for a lot of legacy TV.
The biggest example in January is The Magicians. All 5 seasons are leaving their paid home on Netflix and moving to Tubi on January 15th. It's exactly the kind of bingeable, complex fantasy series that keeps people coming back.
And they're building out their comedy catalog, too. The first 2 seasons, the cult favorite Community, plus classics like Married with Children.
And for contemporary relevance, the 2018 season of Murphy Brown is also coming over. They're building a broad TV slate that really does target every demographic.
Okay, let's look forward. Because every major streamer, free or paid, needs its own originals to define its brand. What is Tubi's strategy there?
Originals are, they're non-negotiable. 87% of streamers expect them. So Tubi is investing heavily in creator-led content, specifically in those same high-engagement genres: comedy, coming-of-age, thriller, and horror.
And January 2026 is kicking off a busy year for them on that front.
That's right. We see a thriller called Broken Bronze on January 2nd, then the horror film Death Name on the 9th, a rom-com called How to Lose a Popularity Contest on the 16th, and then this unique comedy Terry Joe, Missionary in Miami on the 30th.
They're also partnering with popular digital creators, recognizing that modern audiences often start with talent from, the internet. We see that with Kiv on Stage, who's launching Bald Brothers, a new comedy show, in early 2026.
And that blend is key. They're blending Hollywood quality with digital-first authenticity. And what's fascinating is that viewers who start their Tubi journey with that creator-led content show much stronger retention. It feeds that engaged, incremental audience we talked about earlier.
And they're locking on to huge cultural moments, too, with the announcement of a Destination World Cup 2026 docuseries. So they're positioning themselves to capture audiences around these massive global events.
It's a holistic approach. They aren't just buying random content. They're cultivating a highly retained audience across multiple pillars: licensed blockbusters, classic TV, and unique creator-driven originals.
So what does this all mean? If we put together this huge content drop and the strategic audience targeting, what's the ultimate takeaway for the streaming war?
Tubi's strategy is a masterclass in exploiting consumer fatigue. They provide a massive library, critically high-quality content. They combine that with a zero-cost barrier, and they deliver it all to a uniquely engaged and diverse audience that paid platforms are struggling to keep.
So this strategy, the zero cost plus the disciplined advertising, it firmly establishes AVOD as a true primary source of entertainment.
Exactly. Not just a supplement you watch when you can't find anything on Netflix. This is a fundamental power shift, and it's all being driven by economic reality.
It certainly makes you rethink the entire map of the streaming landscape.
Yeah.
This January slate makes the case that you don't have to pay a premium to get premium content anymore.
Something we really couldn't have said 5 years ago.
Indeed. Which brings us to our final provocative thought for you to think about. We mentioned Steven Spielberg's 2005 film War of the Worlds landing on Tubi. Spielberg himself noted that the film's unintentional parallels to the fear after the September 11th attacks were obvious, but he wanted to leave the politics suggestive enough so everybody could have their own opinion. So if you consider this massive, diverse, and often critically lauded catalog, now available for free from serious dramas like Raging Bull to deep fantasy like The Magicians, how does the financial and social freedom of an ad-supported platform change your personal interpretation of the content itself? Does knowing it's free change how we view the message, particularly when it's dealing with complex societal or political fears?
Does the freedom from a monthly bill also offer a kind of freedom of interpretation?
Exactly. We'll see you for the next deep dive.